Imagine waking up one morning, opening your news feed, and realizing that the currency you once thought of as distant or insignificant is suddenly shaking the foundations of global finance. That's exactly what's happening right now, as Iraq's exchange rate update has stunned the world, sparking endless conversations, deep speculation, and a wave of investor curiosity that shows no sign of slowing down. Before we go any deeper, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell, because the details you're about to hear could reshape the way you see international markets forever. The Iraqi dinar, once dismissed by many as a stagnant currency buried under decades of conflict and political instability, has suddenly become a headline story. Financial experts, Forex traders, and even average citizens watching the global market are all trying to understand why Iraq's exchange rate changes are drawing this much attention. It's not just a story about numbers on a screen, it's a story about national recovery, economic ambition, and a region trying to find its footing after years of turbulence. The Iraqi central bank's recent actions have caused ripples that can be felt not only in Baghdad, but in every major trading room from London to New York. The country has been actively working to stabilize its economy, combat corruption, and rebuild international confidence, and the dinar stability is becoming a symbol of that effort. What we're seeing today is not a random coincidence, but the result of strategic economic planning, monetary reform, and rising oil revenues that have given Iraq a stronger position than it has had in over a decade. For years, speculators have whispered about the potential RV or revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, suggesting that one day the currency could dramatically increase in value against the US dollar. While such a dramatic revaluation hasn't occurred overnight, what's fascinating right now is how Iraq's policies are gradually tightening the gap between the official rate and the parallel market rate. This shift may seem small, but in the currency world, these are the tremors that precede larger movements. The Central Bank of Iraq has stated that its top priority is restoring trust in the dinar and ensuring the exchange rate reflects the true health of the national economy. This commitment to transparency and stability has impressed economists who remember the wild fluctuations of the past. The government has been introducing reforms designed to attract foreign investment, and it's also strengthening ties with international financial institutions to ensure the country remains aligned with global standards. This combination of internal discipline and external cooperation is helping Iraq reshape its economic narrative. For everyday Iraqis, these policy moves mean more than just numbers. They translate to purchasing power, job opportunities, and a sense of stability that has been missing for far too long. The stronger the dinar holds, the more confidence investors and citizens alike will place in the nation's financial future. However, even as optimism grows, so do rumors and misinformation, especially across social media. Many self-proclaimed RV gurus continue to predict overnight riches or an instant revaluation that will make holders of dinar instant millionaires. But financial experts emphasize that while currency appreciation is possible, it's a gradual process tied to real economic progress, not internet hype. The truth lies somewhere between the dream of sudden wealth and the data-backed reality of slow, deliberate growth. Now, what truly stuns the world today is not that Iraq's exchange rate is instantly transformed, but that its economic foundation is finally showing resilience. The global markets are realizing that Iraq is no longer just a war-torn nation. It's a country strategically rebuilding its future through fiscal reform and international cooperation. Oil exports remain its lifeline, but diversification efforts are slowly taking shape in sectors like construction, agriculture, and banking. The government is actively pushing to reduce dependency on the US dollar for local transactions, and that is a key part of the current exchange rate story. Each move toward de-dollarization adds credibility to the dinar as a sovereign currency, increasing its symbolic and functional value in both domestic and regional trade. When Iraq's central bank tightens policies, reduces dollar leakages, and increases transparency, it's sending a message that it wants to play by the rules of a stable global economy. That message is being heard loud and clear. Foreign investors are paying attention. Global news outlets are taking notice. And you, the viewer, are witnessing a pivotal economic transformation unfolding in real time. Whether you're holding dinar or just curious about how currencies evolve, what's happening in Iraq right now deserves your attention. It's a reminder that the world's financial balance can shift in unexpected ways, often beginning in places no one thought to look. So stay with us, because this is only the beginning of a much larger story, one that could influence regional trade, global investment strategies, and even the balance of power in international economics. And before you scroll away, take a second to engage. Drop a comment sharing where you think Iraq's currency is heading next. because your insights matter, and this discussion is just getting started. As the global spotlight tightens on Iraq's evolving economic landscape, analysts and investors alike are dissecting every move with almost surgical precision, trying to interpret what these subtle yet meaningful currency adjustments could signal for the world economy in 2025 and beyond. The Iraqi Dinar, long treated as a speculative side note by major financial markets, is now being watched as a potential indicator of a broader regional realignment in Middle Eastern finance. What's driving this newfound focus isn't just speculation, it's data. Over the past year, Iraq's central bank has strengthened its foreign currency reserves, reported a more controlled inflation rate, and demonstrated a more disciplined fiscal structure than in previous years. These developments might seem ordinary for a stable nation, but for Iraq, a country that spent years recovering from sanctions, political instability, and conflict, this represents monumental progress. Each report showing improvement in GDP growth, oil revenue management, or public sector reform adds another layer of credibility to the dinar stability narrative. And when you think about it, that's where true value comes from, not from hype, but from trust. Investors don't follow noise, they follow signals. And Iraq is sending out stronger signals than it has in decades, suggesting that the country's financial system is becoming mature enough to support meaningful currency strength. Now here's where it gets fascinating. While the central bank continues to maintain the dinar's peg to the US dollar around 1,310 dinars per dollar, it has simultaneously been tightening regulatory oversight on foreign exchange markets to prevent price manipulation and money laundering. This is not just technical housekeeping, it's strategic control. In the past, loose regulation allowed a massive gap between the official exchange rate and the black market rate, creating instability and fueling distrust. But through recent monetary reforms and digital monitoring systems, the central bank has been closing that gap, making it harder for unofficial dealers to distort the market. This is one of the main reasons why global economists are revisiting Iraq's financial potential. Stability in a country like Iraq doesn't come from sudden revaluation, it comes from the elimination of uncertainty. And that's exactly what we're beginning to see: less uncertainty, less volatility, and more predictability. When traders can predict, they can plan, and when they can plan, they can invest. So in a sense, Iraq's steady hand on the exchange rate is actually more powerful than any overnight RV scenario could ever be. This methodical stabilization builds confidence the right way, brick by brick, not through sensational headlines, but through consistent action. Still, the internet is buzzing with theories. Some claim Iraq is preparing for a massive currency shift tied to oil contract renegotiations, while others believe new trade deals with China and the Gulf nations could eventually strengthen the dinar's purchasing power. The truth, developments might play a role in the long term, but there's no verified evidence of a sudden or secretive revaluation taking place right now. It's all about foundation building, and Iraq appears to be getting the fundamentals right before attempting anything bold. The international community has taken note as well. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and neighboring financial institutions have praised Iraq for improving transparency and increasing compliance with anti-money laundering standards. These are not flashy headlines, but they're the kind that matter most when it comes to currency value. Iraq's trade partners are also becoming more comfortable using dinar in certain transactions, especially in regional trade zones, and that quiet evolution could have enormous implications down the line. The more Iraq can diversify its economy beyond oil and strengthen domestic industries, the more natural strength the dinar will gain. But we also have to be honest about the challenges ahead. Corruption remains a stubborn obstacle. Bureaucracy still slows down investment flow. Infrastructure, while improving, continues to lag behind regional competitors. These are not small hurdles, but they are being addressed through gradual modernization efforts, and the results are starting to show. In cities like Basra and Baghdad, construction projects are picking up, new industrial partnerships are being forged, and foreign investors are cautiously re-entering the market. These are the first signs of long-term economic momentum. And that's what gives the dinar its subtle but real power right now. What's even more interesting is how the global narrative is shifting. Instead of dismissing Iraq as a high-risk economy, analysts are beginning to discuss it as an emerging player in the region's future trade structure. That's a dramatic change from even 5 years ago. And as the perception changes, the dinar's role as a legitimate, respected currency continues to strengthen. For everyday people following this story, it's important to understand that the real revolution isn't in a sudden exchange rate change. It's in the gradual, disciplined recovery of national credibility. That's what investors are truly betting on. So while rumors of a massive RV continue to make waves online, the authentic narrative is one of resilience, structure, and slow but steady progress. Iraq is proving that rebuilding a nation's financial system isn't about flipping a switch. It's about restoring trust and demonstrating control. Each small adjustment the central bank makes is a message to the world that Iraq is done being unpredictable. And that, in itself, is a stunning transformation. The dinar might not make overnight millionaires, but it's steadily rebuilding confidence and attracting serious investors who understand that real wealth grows with patience, not hype. This is what makes the 2025 exchange rate story truly remarkable. Not the fantasy of instant riches, the reality of measured growth in a country that's learning how to stabilize its economic destiny. If you're watching this right now, hit that like button and tell us in the comments what you think Iraq's long-term plan should be: keep the peg for stability or take the risk of a floating exchange rate to attract new capital. Your thoughts could spark the kind of conversation that shapes the next big discussion in this global story. As we move deeper into 2025, the discussion surrounding Iraq's exchange rate has become a reflection of something much bigger than just currency numbers. It's a symbol of transformation, national pride, and the reemergence of a country long underestimated by the global financial community. The story of the Iraqi dinar today is not simply about speculation or investment. It's about the rebirth of economic sovereignty. Every country that rebuilds from crisis faces a moment when it must prove that its stability is not a temporary illusion, but a sustainable foundation. Iraq seems to be standing right at that crossroads. The global audience is watching closely as the central bank continues to refine its monetary strategy, keeping the dinar's value carefully managed while gradually reducing dependency on foreign currencies in domestic trade. This might sound like a small detail, but in international finance, these are the quiet revolutions that change everything. When a nation can sustain internal transactions in its own currency and preserve purchasing power without outside dependence, it begins to write its own financial destiny. Iraq is attempting exactly that, and this effort is what has made headlines around the world this year. The country's financial leadership is taking measured steps to stabilize inflation, reduce the fiscal deficit, and strengthen public trust in the banking system. For many analysts, this disciplined approach is far more impressive than any hypothetical overnight RV could ever be. The global community doesn't reward chaos, it rewards credibility, and Iraq is finally earning it through data-driven policies rather than speculation-driven promises. At the same time, the connection between Iraq's oil production and its currency remains central to this story. Oil revenues continue to account for over 90% of government income, making the dinar's value inseparable from global energy markets. However, what's different now is that Iraq is beginning to use these revenues more effectively, channeling them into infrastructure, education, and technology instead of merely covering deficits. This reinvestment model is one of the key reasons why international economists believe the dinar will gradually strengthen in the coming years. When oil profits are reinvested domestically, they create a multiplier effect, stimulating internal industries and increasing overall productivity. And that's the real secret to a stronger currency: economic depth. The more diverse and productive an economy becomes, the more stable its currency can remain even when global markets fluctuate. Iraq's effort to modernize its banking system and encourage digital transactions is another sign of serious reform. Cash-heavy economies are often vulnerable to corruption and inefficiency. Digital infrastructure helps improve transparency and traceability. The central bank's rollout of electronic payment platforms, biometric verification for public salaries, and modernized banking regulations are all part of a long-term vision to make the dinar not only stable but respected internationally. When you combine these reforms with foreign partnerships, such as trade cooperation with Turkey, Iran, China, and Gulf nations, you start to see why global investors are once again whispering about Iraq as a potential emerging market success story. The key word here isn't revaluation, it's restoration. Iraq is restoring confidence, both domestically and globally, and that confidence is slowly but surely converting into real economic power. Still, the future isn't without risk. Political changes, shifts in global oil demand, and regional tensions all have the potential to affect Iraq's financial trajectory. A sudden decline in crude prices or renewed internal instability could easily derail progress. But what stands out today is Iraq's growing ability to absorb external shocks without complete economic collapse. This resilience didn't exist a decade ago. It's being built through institutional maturity, international partnerships, and the growing professionalism of Iraq's financial management teams. The 2025 exchange rate update has therefore become a litmus test for how far Iraq has come and how much farther it can go. While the world waits for dramatic headlines about a currency revaluation, the true story unfolding is one of patient reform and gradual empowerment. The dinar may not leap in value overnight, but is earning respect, and in the financial world, respect eventually translates into strength. Investors who understand this dynamic know that Iraq's currency future won't be defined by surprise announcements. It will be defined by years of consistent policy and structural improvement. This is why the global reaction has been so intense, because what's happening in Iraq represents something that's become increasingly rare in our time, an economy rebuilding not through speculation, but through accountability. For the first time in years, Iraq is beginning to show that it can manage its financial narrative instead of letting others define it. That's a powerful shift, one that could inspire other developing nations to take similar approaches in stabilizing their economies before chasing rapid growth. And as we wrap up this deep dive into Iraq's stunning exchange rate journey, here's the truth you need to remember. The revaluation everyone keeps talking about may not come as a single explosive event. It may come quietly, gradually, through years of smart policy, transparent governance, and economic diversification. Those who understand patience and study the fundamentals will be the ones who truly benefit when that time comes. The story of the Iraqi dinar is still being written, and its next chapters could be some of the most important in global finance this decade. So don't look away now, stay informed, stay analytical, and don't fall for clickbait promises. Follow real data, follow credible sources, and keep watching as Iraq transforms from a post-conflict economy into a disciplined regional power. If you've made it this far into the video, you're already part of the few who truly understand what's unfolding behind the headlines. So before you go, hit that like button, share this video with someone who still believes the myths instead of the facts, and subscribe right now so you never miss another update on the Iraqi dinar and the global market shifts shaping our future. This is not just news. It's history happening in real time, and you're watching it unfold right here, right now.